Today's video, we're going to talk about how to improve click-through rate on Google Ads simply by being more specific. I promise you, there's going to be real information here that's going to for sure increase your click-through rates. And the reason why I can say that is because I've written thousands of Google Ads. I understand what people are looking for and what it seems like would work on a Google ad. If you've written other ads for other places before even, you're not going to get the best click-through rate on Google Ads because there's a certain pattern to ads that get results on and through Google Ads that only work on Google Ads. So I'm going to explain what that process is, and this is an easy to follow process. You do not need to be an ad copywriting genius to be able to follow this system. You just have to give a damn about your results and apply what I'm about to tell you to your campaigns. If you stay to the end of the video, I will give you an actual case study of where we actually got results in addition to what I'm talking about in terms of the actual example company here in question. So you can see just how much money you're going to make using this system once you have applied it to your business. I am Corey Ziman, owner of Guaranteed PPC, a online advertising agency that specializes in guaranteeing results for our clients before charging management fees. We are the only agency on the planet who offers any kind of contingency guarantee on advertising management services, which should tell you something about the information I'm sharing on today's video with you here. With that said, getting into the topic. Now, when I mean specifically to give you a background about being more specific and how that is your key to unlock a lot more click-through rate on your ads, which if you don't already know, the higher your click-through rate, the more you're going to make because it's going to lower your cost per click. It's going to increase the amount of clicks available to you out of the available pool of people that are buyers. It's also going to get Google to want to show you more, give you more impressions, give you a higher quality of user. Yes, they do this. They send the type of user who's the non-buyer that they know is the non-buyer because they look at people who buy versus don't buy coming through Google, and they're able to determine that pretty well based upon a person's previous behavior and so forth. And they send the person least likely to convert to the guy who has the least click-through rates because they don't care if you go or stay, and they got to send it to somebody, frankly. All of these different things contribute to a massive increase in profitability from your ads overall in total once you understand how to get the highest click-through rate in your space. So high is relative. What you need to do is have click-through rates that are beating all your other people that are advertising on Google Ads. And if you don't already know, and you haven't watched my other videos before, I talk about how in many niches that are fairly competitive, they'll have 15, yes, literally 15 people cycling in and out of the 4 ad spots on the top of Google. And so they have room to be picky and choosy about what they're doing, and they have room to, basically kick their advertisers to make a bit more money if they want to. Ultimately, what happens at the end of the day is the top 2 or 3 guys that have the best click-through rates and conversion rates to go along with it, they treat like royalty because they're helping their users get a good experience, so they want to click on ads in the future. And the rest of the people, they could really just abuse, take advantage of, charge them more money, give them worse quality clicks, give them clicks that they don't want because, hey, if one quits, we got freaking 14 others to pick from here or, 11 more. And that's where you absolutely do not want to be. And if you're going to spend your money with Google Ads, it doesn't pay to just do it. Either do it all the way right and you make all the money, or you do it the half-ass way and you make nothing. Or you work really hard for the customers you are getting, and Google set it all up like this for us to play. We have an even opportunity to make and be Google's favorite, but you have to play the game better than the existing people that are there. Otherwise, Google says, hey, I don't have you're not doing anything I didn't have before, so why should I care if you make any money? So with that said, being more specific on your ads always gets you more click-through rate because the consumers you want to sell to don't want to be talked to in a generic, boring way. If you are wanting to buy a pair of socks, and the only way that you could refer to these socks, people could speak to you about the socks, I should say, is in a text ad format. What's naturally just saying we have socks for sale isn't going to work very well versus saying we have the most comfy, warm, soft socks on the planet. That stuff tells me right away, without clicking through the ad, why this website is the one I want to click on. the more specific you are, the more click-through rate you get. You can't just say anything specifically that they don't care about though either. You can't say these are the smelliest socks on the planet. That's not going to work. What you do when you always want to get more click-through rate is you spend more time identifying what your users actually want to hear. You talk to your salespeople if you don't do sales yourself at your company. You ask them what are the top 5 things people talk to you and ask you questions about the most out of everything else. If you don't have that, you go and you read every one of your competitors' reviews. And I mean every single one. And you start taking notes, baby. What is people talking about the most? What do they bitch about the most? What do they like the most? Rank stack the top 5 things people have talked about the most. Then you know what's going to be in your ad. It's actually not rocket science. Once you have done that, then you're in position to do a little testing on your ad to identify how to word what you're saying. Just focus on those 5 things so that you seem like you have those 5 things the most, if you will, or the least if it's something that irritated people. With that said, I'm going to give you a real world case study here on how this is specifically done. If you want to get more click-through rate on your ads, which you absolutely should, because the easiest thing you can do in your business to make more money is to make your ad click-through rate better. Getting these kind of gains that I'm going to talk about here by improving your operations is 10 times harder to do. And for that matter, if you're busy in your business doing whatever you're doing, so you don't have time to do stuff like this, you're really just kicking your own ass. You will not make more money in your business by not hiring an employee and doing whatever it is that you need to do to deliver your product or service when you don't have enough time to actually work on your ads. Period, point blank. I don't care what you say. Best use of your time is to make your ads better. Now, with that said, let's assume on Google search, our keyword that we're trying to get traffic from is stairlift installation. The stairlifts are for old people that can't get up the steps very easily. So you have those little chairs. I'm sure you've seen commercials for this before. Back in the day on TV or still to this day. You sit in a little chair and it takes you up the stairs like this. And so you don't have to walk up the stairs. These stair lifts are a few grand and it keeps mom and dad out of the nursing home a little bit longer, or grandma or grandpa if you're young enough. And that's basically what you're paying for. Or old people buy it for themselves to keep themselves out of the nursing home. So with that said, if you're doing this type of business, which is a pretty lucrative business, you wanted to get into a business that doesn't take a lot of overhead up and to get into, but doesn't have extremely high amounts of competition. Now it's got a lot of competition, don't get me wrong, but not ultra high amounts. Let's say you're getting into this business like our client here was. We're targeting the keyword stairlift installation. What the average person's going to do, what our client did, was to have an ad that on the first couple of headlines says stairlift and ramps on the first headline, then deal directly with the owner. That in and itself, by the way, got a 4% click-through rate, which that's about an average click-through rate. And the average person's going to say, oh, it's average, great. And like I was mentioning at the very start of this video, average isn't going to cut it anymore if you're going to make any kind of real money on Google Ads. If you're average, you're replaceable. And if you're replaceable, and you don't have to ask me about this or to believe what I have to say, go read Google's antitrust paperwork. They're playing all kinds of games with people to try to get more and more and more out of their advertisers. In terms of charging them more, playing games to see if you're willing to pay more, and then if you will, they'll take advantage of you forever after. They're only doing this to people that are replaceable. Don't be replaceable. It's like an employee. You got your really good employee that you can't fire, and even if they came to work drunk and high and half naked, you couldn't get rid of them. This is the same kind of thing. Ultimately, and by the way, the main things on the ads that get your click-through rate up is the headline 1 and headline 2. The description barely has any impact on your results. Yes, you shouldn't half-ass it, but it has 20% of the click-through rate, the impact on your click-through rate or less. The H1 and H2 is the most important, and H3 almost never gets shown on an ad, so that doesn't matter really. Now, the average person's going to do an ad like this for a keyword like this because what do? They have 5 or 10 keywords in their campaign, all in broad match. So they can't have a laser targeted ad that speaks to the user based upon how they want to be spoken to. And they don't put much thought into what they ideally want to hear versus they think as long as the ad describes what they do, they're already good. Which is the absolute wrong way to think if you want to make millions running ads for your business and scaling up to that. making money on a small level, then reinvesting, and then pretty soon you're making $5 million a year in revenue and $1 million a year in profit. By the way, anybody can do this if they just put into motion the stuff I talk about on this channel, because we're doing it. I give it to you here for free. The only difference of whether the guy, you are the one that makes $1 million a year income or don't is really up to you, and are you actually going to execute? Period. The information, it's not like, I don't know how to do it, or you have to be lucky. All the information's on this channel. You either do it and you make the money, or you don't, and you can't complain. With that said, they're going to have this generic ass ad. Hopefully the person who my client isn't watching this. They might be a little bit upset with me, but it's for science here. They're going to have this generic ad, and generic ads get generic click-through rates. And in fact, he's kind of lucky to get 4%, because if this was actually a halfway clever headline, deal directly with the owner, if it wasn't for that, it would have been 2% or 2 to 3% below average. With that said, going back to the golden rule, if you want more click-through rates, be more specific. How do we be more specific? After doing the research, we know one of the things that people care the most about, not care about, but care the most about, is they want the service fast. They want fast installation. When you use strong adjectives, by the way, in ads, lightning fast versus fast, or guaranteed, or #1 rated, stuff like this helps your click-through rate because it stands out from other ads. So I recommend you be over the top whenever you can. So with that said, instead of saying fast service, we said lightning fast service. In terms of the first ad test that we came out with to try to beat this 4% click-through rate that we had when we first started working with this client. What do you think this click-through rate we got from this updated ad was? 7.5%. So we almost doubled the click-through rate, going from generic ad to laser targeted ad for this exact keyword using single keyword ad groups, which people that frankly are my competitors here on YouTube that talk about Google ad strategy are still talking about using broad match keywords, which I think if they sniff Google's ass enough, they'll give them enough ranking in YouTube to make them money selling their courses. By the way, they don't even run any ads. They're selling courses to people that don't know anything about ads. Ultimately, broad match keywords, unless you have millions of dollars to spend on ads, hundreds of thousands until you get decent results, you don't use those. And even then, you're still not going to get the best results. You use exact match keywords with single keyword ad groups. You have laser targeted ad copy for every single keyword, and you don't target 10 or 20 keywords. You target 1,000. So every variant of every term that someone could be using to become a customer, you target on a laser hyper targeted level. So your ad will be not kind of close to what they're looking for, dead on, both accurate close to what they're looking for. And if you don't do that, you're throwing money away and you're not going to make as much as you should. So it's up to you whether you make a lot or a little, because I'm telling you the formula that gets the most results. And it's hilarious. I still to this day see all the time on Reddit and everything else, do single keyword ad groups really work? And it's just hilarious why a dedicated ad for someone typing in something specific wouldn't want an ad that is directly relevant to what they searched for. This is freaking hilarious. And I love people who are so stupid because I don't have to deal with them as competition. The first headline, Stairlift install services, which is as close to the keyword as we could get and still be, making sure that they understand what we're offering in the ad. Because the main thing with Google Ads as well as too is we can't just put the keyword in the headline if it would be confusing to the user, because sometimes people type in keywords that are nonsensical. For instance, if the keyword that they're typing in is stairlift installation near me, you don't have an ad on the first part of the headline say stairlift installation near me because it looks like a robot and it's nonsensical. You would then tweak that to say stairlift installation near you, which is what we do with near me searches like that. So anyway, we take what they want, but we make it as close as possible without seeming robotic. And then we know they want to hear more than anything else. We give them that on the second headline. Because we're more specific, we're going to get a higher click-through rate. Now, once in a while, this second headline, by being more specific, we'll say like #1 stairlift installs in Dallas. If this is a local business, we'll do that. The city name, if you put the city name in the second headline, it's going to take valuable space away. Almost always are we going to use the city name in the second headline anyway for a local business. In this particular case, mentioning that we're quick, it still works pretty good already as is. About as good as mentioning the city name, but without and using the city name part of that second headline. 90+% of the time for a local business, you're still going to use the city name. That's going to get you the highest click-through rate. But with that said, moving on here, lightning fast service got a 7.5% click-through rate. If we switch that and be even more specific, you just want to be as transparent as possible because you'll generally get the most click-through rate that way. Instead of saying lightning fast service, say 7-day or less install guarantee. Now that is super, super specific. And because of that, we went up from a 7.5% to an 8.8% click-through rate. So big difference still. Now, if we go a little bit further here, the other major thing that we knew from doing our research on the market is people care about price, naturally. If you know people want a low price, you could say, oh, I don't offer a low price, so I'm not going to focus on it. Well, granted, there's times where you only want a premium customer and you can only serve a premium customer that's in the top 10% of income demographic. Then you don't say you're cheap, even though you know most of the market wants that. But if you're like a mid-priced option, you want to pretend like you're cheap anyway. Why? Because once you get the quote to them, people are ultimately going to go with you anyway, even though you're not the cheapest, if your sales process is good and your closing rate's going to be the same. We know because we work with clients all the time, and I explain this to them all the time. We tried out, instead of 7-day or less install guarantee, we also tested lowest price guarantee. That actually did better than 7-day or less install guaranteed. And that brought us up from an 8.8 to a 9.2% click-through rate. Pretty good compared to our 4% where we started out. Now, if we go further about being more specific here, like I'm trying to explain what the point of this video is, whenever you find a winner that's going to increase your click-through rate, you want to try to see how can I be even more clear and more specific about what it is that we're offering in terms of results. Using a guarantee is a great way to do it, but not the only way of doing it. If we know the person's focused on price specifically, you want to focus on a damn price. One that particularly sounds cheap. In the moving space, we found we'll get the highest click-through rate by saying offering moves starting at $299, which nobody gets $299, but we do it anyway. Same thing in the plumbing space. We say unclogging drain guarantee for $69. We don't really offer it for $69. It's bait and switch, but hey, it works like hell. And if you don't do it, you're open to somebody else doing it, and then they're going to get all the click-through rate. So you can be all, as ethical as you want, but you're just going to end up paying twice as much to get a customer. So it costs money to have ethics, if you will, which, naturally the way that you do it without lying is you have a package that it actually is $69. It just, of course, is for only this type of drain or only this type of move where you're already packaged everything up and all we got to do is just move it from point A to point B or what have you. Which, by the way, before I give you the final ad that worked best here, I want to mention that if you don't know how to write the best ad for your market, or you should absolutely reach out to me because I can do that for you. But more importantly, I can also give you the actual ad that works for your market. We've worked in over 100 niche markets and have ad templates available that you can literally buy from us straight up, that you can copy paste into your ad accounts and get the same results we've got over and spent years building up the results of the split testing ads and split testing the landing pages, coming up with different campaign ideas. To find out what works the best in your market, you can get it all up front for yourself just for a small one-time fee. And with that, there's no way you're going to save money doing it all for yourself. Well, some of the guys that, they reach out and they already worked in a certain market, got better results for the client, but they don't want to pay the money for the template. You're not thinking straight because ultimately it costs money to find out what works. You're going to have to waste money, and every change you make in your account is going to give you negative volatility in your results. You want to make as little changes as possible because everyone hurts your results. Just getting to what works right away is the best way to go every time. I can't explain this anymore. Even if what we're charging is 4 figures for a template, which is an absolute steal to find out the exact ad and exact landing page that works the best for your space. That people don't see the upfront cost and then they just poo-poo it as a result. which we don't charge too little for the templates, because if everybody started using it, there would be no effect from it, frankly. And we got people using these templates because they're so good to start other businesses. They're starting lead selling businesses where they can sell leads to people in different industries, or they wanted to get an e-commerce selling product that they can easily get from China and sell it in a country that our client is not currently in, which is a great way to set up a business, by the way. Anyway, if you're interested in any of those templates, you can also reach out to me at guaranteeppc.com, as well as to craft yourself a plan to get you unbottlenecked from the current results that you're at, and see what we can guarantee, what we can get you to along with it. But with that said, getting back to the topic at hand here, the final headline that we found works the best in this market was stairlifts for only $9.99, which nobody sells it for $9.99. Going back to what we were saying before, is you got to be a little bit misleading with your ad to get the highest click-through rate you can, because people, all these, to give you a kind of draw a parallel here, all these upstanding news organizations, Forbes, doesn't matter what it is, they do the clickbait because they have to do that to outcompete the other people who do clickbait. And it doesn't matter if you don't want to be clickbaity or not anymore. You either do it or you're going to go away. You're going to be out of business. There's no opportunity for you to have a conscience, so to say, even if you wanted one. You're just going to be in a dumpster somewhere. So with that said, if somebody is using some of these tactics, like dropping a low price on the ad, if you're not doing it, they're going to get 2 or 3 times as many clicks as you. Then Google's going to start to favor them and now push you to the side. You don't have the opportunity to do it. So, and if nobody's doing it yet, it's going to work even better. And you should just jump on it anyway, because you're at least going to then not be affected when somebody else does it. Saying stairlift install services, when they type in stairlift installation and then right away stairlifts for only $9.99, that actually got the most click-through rate possible. All the other ads that we tested actually, and all we did was we took the lowest price guarantee, which got 9% click-through rates, and we just went ahead and set a price of what it is that we're charging, so people would believe like, oh, what's low? Low is so arbitrary. It doesn't actually tell you anything really. But when you say a price, now I understand completely. Their goal is to know what they're getting from you and from a vendor before they have to click on the ad. Because clicking on the ad and then going to the landing page and having to see the price takes effort that they don't want to expend. And definitely they don't want to call. There's a lot of people who are just so hard-headed that they want people to call to get the price. Well, that's just retarded, because so many people don't. That's the exact thing the client doesn't want to do. And they think that, if they say the price, people will be scared away. But the reality is, even more people will not want to call. Whereas if you would have just said the price up front, unless you're like astronomically expensive or something, then I can see it. They would just get tons of people to click on their ad ultimately, particularly when you can kind of have a low price option that you can drop in the ad, get them to call, and then you can bring them down to earth, as I call it, give them the reality check that they need, which is, yeah, you could get that, but that's not the one you really want. Here's what we have that's a little bit more, and then you get the sale anyway. You can call it unethical all you want. That formula works very, very well. We've done this in air quality testing services in tons of different spaces because it works and it works and it works. And if I'm running a business, I'm going to go with this route. I'm going to set up my sales process to accommodate being able to have a price that we give up front. It's a teaser price that we then, ultimately they have to say yes or no to something that can get them to ultimately say something yes to something that's more expensive after they call. That final ad with that second headline got 11.4%. With that said, I mentioned for the local businesses, you're 90+% of the time going to have the location in the ad's going to work the best. So in other words, and with that said, if you're in Chicago, it's not saying Chicago in the ad. It means Lincoln Park, which is in the Chicago area. Why? Because you're going to be going back to being more specific, gets more click-through rates. Being more specific as to saying that user's suburb, the user is in that they're searching from, will get you more click-through rates as well. But we tested A+ BBB rated on the 1/3 headline as well as number 1 in suburb, and the city name beat the A+ BBB rated. But these are the general ones that we go to for a local business, by the way, because people also want to know you're trusted. They want to know, can you do it? Do you cover their area? And can they trust you? And because we didn't actually get the chance to say the city in the second headline, we had to test one or the other for the third headline. And naturally, because the headline 3 doesn't show very much, the description right away needed to focus on A+ PPP rated, number 1 in suburb. And then, people don't want to do the city thing, by the way, because they don't want different campaigns for each city because it takes more time to set up. But I promise you, you'll always, always, always get more click-through rate by having that user's suburb that they're searching from. Or if you're running a national service company, having the state name that the user's in inside the ad. And it may seem illogical, it works. I mean, it can be a speaker, just being number 1 speaker in Texas. People that are in Texas are going to click on that ad at a hell of a lot higher rate than if it didn't say Texas in that ad. And you got to think about it from the consumer's perspective. There's 4 ads at the top of Google. 1 says Texas in it. You're in Texas. Of course, you're looking for a speaker that will come to Texas. Why wouldn't you want to click on that ad? Have that location in the ad like that one way or another, whether it's in H2 or H3 or the description, like I talked about in this example, every single time. The only exception would be e-commerce companies where we don't deal locally. If we're selling products locally in a brick and mortar, we'll still have the city name in there. It's a medical clinic, we'll still have the city name in there. Actually, in the medical clinic, in that instance, we don't say the user suburb that the user's in. We say this metro area, the name of the metro area, like Chicago or whatever, because we're not really in their suburb. That would confuse them. But anyway, with that said, that is a really good example of how you could work on finding out what you should be saying and then being more and more and more specific. And the more specific you go, even if it means setting up different campaigns for different cities or different ad groups for different keywords, the more click-through rate you just ultimately get. You can go as far as you want with this. Every single campaign I run, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make it so specific so I have a different unique ad for every keyword and different location at a minimum. Then I'm going to work on figuring out what's that main benefit to the user that we need to focus on more than anything else and try to be as specific as possible about that specific benefit. $9.99 guarantee, whatever. And that will be the final piece to the whole thing. Why would you not want the extra results by being super vague? Ultimately, I mention all the time on this channel, you can be mad all you want at Google about how much they charge for clicks and this and that. If you haven't went ahead and used it and be as specific as possible on your ads, you can't complain. Because Google said, without saying it directly, this is what they want you to do. You either do it and they give you all the praise for it, or you don't do it and you don't get the praise. It'd be one thing if it was a big black box and you just didn't know what to do. That's not the case. And not only that, but I have tons of other case studies on this channel and whatnot about how to get the highest click-through rate and just absolutely crush everybody in your space, as well as on the landing page conversion rate, as well as on the tracking you need and so forth. All on this channel, and it's for free, and you can rely on it because I've run hundreds of campaigns before. I know what works, and I spend 40 hours a week at our firm just doing ad strategy for clients. I've been doing it for over 10 years now. As compared to the other information that you're going to find on YouTube from people who don't run ads and are just trying to sell ad space or trying to sell you a course, the information here is coming from somebody that's in the trenches actively doing the stuff. And that's the only way you would really know how it works, having run thousands of ads. To learn what works and what doesn't work. These people that you learn from elsewhere on YouTube, they're really good at seeming like they're saying a lot and they don't know. And they're just banking on you not knowing what's good versus bad, ultimately. If you're serious about becoming a millionaire running ads for your business, you want to pay attention to this channel first. You also want to check out my blog at guaranteedppc.com/blog. The blog has actually even better advice than what's on this channel. So if you haven't checked that out, you should check that out as well. By the way, if you have any questions or comments about your specific use case, you can always leave me a comment in the comment section. I get back to every single person who leaves me a question or comment on this channel, usually within 24 hours time. Also, you can reach out to me and book a coaching session. For 30 minutes, I can clear up pretty well what it is that you need to do to get to the next level, whether it be work on your landing page, your website, your tracking, whatever it is, and get you to the next level with what you're doing instead of beating your head against the wall if you're doing that already. But with that said, you can see how much of a difference this can make on your click-through rate. This click-through rate that we started with versus what we ended up with is basically 3 times as much. Not quite. That 3 times higher click-through rate, though, translated into 10 times more profit. Because between the additional traffic they're going to bring, we're going to get, in terms of, Google's going to bring in terms of increasing impressions, and the lowering the cost per click, and them giving a little bit better quality clicks on top of it, we're making 10 times as much money by going through this exercise here. Minimum 10 times as much. I don't have a way to quantify it all the way because there's some of the things in there that are unquantifiable, and especially since the longer we run the campaigns, the more we benefit from it. But 10 should be your absolute minimum when you triple your click-through rate like this and you go from average to above average. Or if the average click-through rate in your space is already high, like you're in travel, the average click-through rate in that space is going to be like 10%. But you go from 10 to 25, you can expect at least 10 times difference in the amount of money you can make from your ads. I talked about the moving company actually earlier. We actually were able to take the company's click-through rate up from right around 3% all the way up to 10% in the moving space, which is a hyper competitive space, by the way, because of the low barrier to entry, and each call is basically like liquid cash. Everybody wants those calls, including marketers that just mark up the cost of the call and sell the leads to other people that are in the moving space. So you got real marketers you're competing with, specifically finding out to say moving moves for $297 and mentioning that on the ad, and then finding a way to make that logistically work in terms of the actual call that was produced that got us the difference. That plus having the keyword in the first headline got us the difference between 3 and walk up the click-through rate to just under 10%. Just by doing that figuring out that one simple thing. Yes, it might take a little bit of work to find out what that thing is, but it's worth it. And if you don't know what it is, you can reach out to me and I can find out. I could tap into my experience and probably in 5 minutes give you what that thing is pretty well. Because I've ran so many ads in so many markets, but I'll leave that up to you to decide. With that said, I'll wrap it up with that. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Remember when I said click-through rate CTR was important during this video? Well, this video here tells you how to do it.